Today, we're going to take a look at the hike between waterfalls. Even though it's 10 miles to get to the first waterfall, we're going to skip that and we'll start at Havasu Falls and hike down to Mooney Falls and then on to Beaver Falls. It's about 10 miles from the hilltop to Havasu Falls, and then the mile between Havasu Falls and Mooney Falls is the campground. You can camp anywhere in that area, and that'll be your base for the next few days and give you opportunity to explore the various waterfalls, which include Beaver Falls shown here, Havasu Falls, and Mooney Falls. All the falls are spectacular, and Havasu Falls shown here is probably the best well-known. It's about 100 feet from top to bottom, and the mist and the water is just spectacular. The water gets that blue-green color from magnesium. As calcium carbonate is slowly released from the water, the relative amount of magnesium increases, deepening the blue color. And of course, as I mentioned in my last video, Havasupai translates to people of the blue-green water. But the mist waters the vegetation surrounding the waterfall, ferns and growth, making it look like a Garden of Eden. The kind of sad thing is that this waterfall is not as spectacular as it was when I first came. All these limestone little waterfalls used to be spectacular looking. The limestone formations as the water went over them, and due to floods and possibly even all the people, it just isn't quite the same, but it's still spectacular. But the fear is, with the amount of people that visit, what damage and what will this site look like in the years to come. We did notice a number of tamarisk trees starting to grow, and if they take hold along this Havasu Creek, it will definitely forever change the landscape. But Havasu Falls, there's Calvin, and he previous picture with his son. That's kind of downstream. When the water isn't too deep, you don't get the deep blues, and you see more of the reflection of the dirt or sand below. But we spent one afternoon just relaxing and watching the waterfall, swimming in the 70-degree waters. They say Havasu Creek maintains pretty much a constant temperature of about 70 degrees. That was an effort I tried of night photography. But just downstream from Havasu Falls is the campground. And here's where we're camped. And of course we are next to Havasu Creek. Let's introduce you to our whole group. Not only is there me, there's Kelly, there's Calvin, CT, and Richard. Where could Richard be? We'll have to see if we can find him. But this is our campsite for the 4 days. There's water available through a natural spring, and there are composting restroom buildings available. But everything else, your food, tent, sleeping bag, you bring yourself. Here's my tent and sleeping bag. Let's check it out. Okay. That looks like Richard's tent. Let's see what's going on in there. Oh, looks like there may be someone in there. I guess we found where Richard is. Even though he's most energetic, he still rests sometimes. It's just a spectacular sight anywhere you camp. And there's about 350 people there camping each day.
No pictures were taken with drones during this video.
All right, we got it.
Yeah, with the 360 camera and a selfie stick, it oftentimes looks like I'm using a drone, which are outlawed and can't be used down in Havasupai. But this gives a lot of the same effect. And there's Mooney Falls. Spectacular sight. And stay tuned as we climb down the face of that cliff to get to the bottom of the falls. Here's the top of the creek as it feeds Mooney Falls. As you walk a little forward, you get to the cliff where the falls are. Just a spectacular sight. There's the falls, 200 feet down, 100 feet more than Havasu Falls. People down there are just tiny little specks you can't even see. Cool sight to stand right at the top of the falls looking down. Just don't fall, or you may be history. The water running over the rock and limestone creates effects that make you feel like you're in a cave, like stalactites hanging down around the waterfall. And here we start our descent down the trail of Mooney Falls. Doesn't look too bad yet, but not only do we hike down these rocks, we'll see more warning signs. Enter at your own risk, and then we'll enter a cave. Just a series of chains, stairs, scrambling, and ladders to go down the 200 feet to get to the bottom of Mooney Falls. Enjoy the journey. If you're afraid of heights, if you're not much at scrambling or going up and down steep areas, holding on to chains, this isn't the trail for you. And like I said in my last video, you gotta know your limitations. Richard, there ahead of me, he wore gloves to help him get a grip on the chains. They can be wet and slick from all the mist from the waterfall. There it is. Enter at your own risk. And there's Calvin saying, I'll risk it. That was Richard just ahead of him. And there's Mooney Falls. Even if you just look at it from the top, it's still spectacular. But it's a whole different experience climbing down. Calvin descends down into the ground, makes you feel like journey to the center of the earth. And next, I'll descend down following him. I guess I didn't mention if you're a little claustrophobic, this might be difficult as well. But it really isn't that bad. Even this old guy managed to do it with his bum leg. Just take your time. The rough thing is if people are coming up at the same time, because some areas it's just hard to pass.
So he's going back?
And there's Kelly behind me, and he just mentioned that CT lost the sole of his shoe, so he's heading back to camp to get his hiking shoes, and then he'll catch back up with us as we head to the base of Mooney Falls and then on down to Beaver Falls. You just have to have some video of this hike down because it's just one of the more memorable little hikes. And there's Mooney Falls through the opening. There's some of the stalactites, limestone formations basically created by water that once ran through this area. The caves and rock give you some interesting views of the waterfall that you just don't get from any other location. And just this view of sitting in the cave is interesting. Do you see that pile of gloves that people left there? That's because we're approaching the chain area. Right there they are. And I guess they left those for people that may need them. There's Kelly scrambling down the last ladder to get to the base. And it's slick and wet.
And now this.
Mooney Falls is twice as tall as Havasu Falls. And the mist extends, it seems like, forever. But it's a spectacular sight, especially if you can find it when the sun's right. That's Richard, standing well beyond the pool of the falls. But just a spectacular sight. It's an old picture of me standing near the falls. And once you go down from the falls a little bit, you see some of the grapevines. They're all coated with mud from the mist from the falls.
Wait. Okay,
Yeah. Looks like I should have put this in a different order. This is actually after we'd been to Beaver Falls and came back and are climbing out. But since it's all to do with Mooney Falls, I'll leave it right here. Again, just spectacular views through the rock formations, tunnels, as you climb out 200 feet, Mooney Falls. Calvin actually started to climb up as 3 people were coming down. And one of the people were extremely slow. And, well, he had to wait quite a while hanging on the edge of the cliff for them to pass before he could continue up. But once you go downstream, you get to these areas that are just covered with grapevines. I always thought it's just a spectacular view. Be hard to hike if there wasn't a trail through them. Well, we didn't really see grapes growing on them. Wrong time of the season, I suppose. It's still spectacular to see the grapes spread across the base of the canyon, in some areas halfway up the canyon walls. And that's our group. Looks like Calvin, or CT, is caught up with us. And there's me. On our way to Beaver Falls. Part of the hike you're in the sun, and this part we're in the shadows. But it's still a spectacular view. And of course hiking in the shade It's a lot more comfortable. The 3 miles from Mooney Falls to Beaver Falls is just a spectacular sight. You hike along Havasu Creek, several creek crossings, and you'll see some different little waterfalls. And you can find an area where you'll be very secluded, probably off by yourself. Then you may want to just relax there. You might find a spiny lizard. First one was the female, that's the male. Here's one of the creek crossings. Still the lovely blue water. And it's extremely refreshing to get in there. My sore leg, once I got in that water, soaked in that 70-degree water for a while, I was ready to hike again. I felt reinvigorated. Beautiful sight. There's Calvin and Richard enjoying soaking in the water. This fall doesn't have a name, but it's still spectacular to see. Some of these videos and pictures were taken on the way down and some of them on the way back up. You can tell the difference based on the light. I think this was actually as we were hiking out. A spectacular sight to see. There, I didn't know Calvin was going to jump in. And I panned over to Richard swimming. And you thought the climb to Mooney Falls was tough. And well, it's not all at once. There are a number of ladders, scrambling and mountains to climb up and down as you get to Beaver Falls. So if you struggled with the hike down to Mooney, you may struggle a little bit getting here to Beaver Falls. And that is it. A series of multiple waterfalls, and each one spectacular. There's our group. Kelly had made it to the falls before us, and by the time we got there, he was already done and heading back. I think he wanted to have a nap.
Beaver Falls.
Richard gives it 2 thumbs up. Sitting on the limestone on top of one of the falls. And there's Calvin, CT, sitting at the top of the fall. Just a spectacular setting. Well worth the 6-7 mile round trip hike from our campsite. And even though it looks like a drone, there you can see the shadow of my selfie stick. Not a drone, just a selfie stick. That gives for a spectacular view of Beaver Falls. There's several different levels. First we swam in the bottom level, then we moved up to the second level. And I guess people were tired of swimming, so we didn't go to the third level. Plus, when you see up on that next level there, there's a number of people there, so we chose to avoid them. cool sight. Cool place.
Test it out.
There I am with CT, walking over to the edge of the fall. And you definitely don't want to fall off this either. But there's an old tree stump there. I thought, gee, I can climb up on that. That'd make for a cool video. And I gotta admit, pretty cool place to stand. And occasionally I had to put the camera down so I could just enjoy swimming in some of the deeper areas. But this was the first little pond. It's Calvin, and Richard get in, and there I am. But I can only walk in the shallow area that's brown. The blue area is the deeper area. I gotta stay away from that. I don't want to get my camera submerged. I turned the sound down because the sound of the waterfall and background noise would be so great. But you want to hear it a little bit. But that's why you can't hear the people talking. I was so worn out from my hike the first day, from the hilltop into the campground, that I didn't think there's any way that I'd decide the next morning that I'd go to Beaver Falls. But as you can see, I made it. It's spectacular, and I'm glad that I did it.
Hello, wonderful. Hey.
Yeah, our commentary's probably not going to win any awards, but like they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And it's just one spectacular sight to see. So I hope you're enjoying the tour of Beaver Falls. Of course, then we had the hike out of there, climbing up the sticks and ladders and rocks. But here's Richard, 72 years old. No problem for him. Just got to find your footing, get a finger grip that works with your arthritic hands, and up he goes. Once you scramble up there, give it a thumbs up. But then there's another ladder to climb. Richard goes up that. You see it's missing a rung there at the bottom, so you gotta kind of climb on the rocks to the side. There's Calvin scrambling up. No problem. But I didn't show a lot of the scrambling that you have to do to get down there and up there. And while it's not in all one place like it is going up and down from Mooney, it is substantial. But the hike back, you get to see all these spectacular sights again. And it's just a beautiful place. So even if you don't make it to Mooney Falls, or I should say Beaver Falls, if you can go a little bit farther down than Mooney Falls, you'll see some places that you like. And here we are on the scramble out. There goes Richard. Now that you've seen these 3 falls, Havasu, Mooney, and Beaver, which is your favorite? Of course, the last one we'll see is Havasu.
Hiking out. This is my last view of Havasupai Falls. It's a beautiful area.
I hope you enjoyed the video and seeing the falls, even at night. Have a great day.